Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Autoheterophiles with me, Phil Illy. Here today, I'm with an autoandrophilic individual who goes by Ulysses. And yeah, we're just going to talk about his experience. And I think this is going to be a good one. Thank you for coming on the channel, Ulysses.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I put out, I think like a week or so ago, I asked sort of in one of the autoandrophilia servers if there's anyone that wanted to come on, and you were kindly ready to volunteer. And so, yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. I've seen a few of your YouTube videos and I was interested because I don't feel like there's a lot of androphilic um, people that get interviewed. It's mostly focused on autogynephilia, just not your channel specifically, but just like the whole auto heterosexual thing as a whole. And so I wanted to volunteer because I feel like it would lend another voice and maybe some people could relate to what I'm going through.
Yeah, that's good. That's like exactly what I'm trying to accomplish is to make it so that autoandrophiles and autogynephiles, when they learn about these concepts and they relate to them, but then they go to try to find other people's experiences, and at least, especially with autoandrophiles, there's almost nothing out there. Um,
Mhm.
and I think if we get a few hundred of these out there, it'll really change things in terms of helping to build that sort of group identity and online community of self-aware autoheterosexuals.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess I'll start by asking, sort of, how did you come across the concept of autoandrophilia, and when you did come across it, how'd you feel about it?
Well, I can't really remember when I first heard about it. Um, I know I found out about it when I was an adult, but I had never been exposed to anything like similar like beforehand. Like I don't watch porn or anything, so I wasn't like exposed to it that way. But I did first hear about onogynephilia first, and I didn't obviously didn't relate to that, but and there wasn't a lot on autoandrophilia um, at the time, but I felt like yeah, I relate to that. But still, at the time of me discovering it, I didn't identify as trans, and I wasn't in the process of transitioning.
Did learning about did you start transitioning before learning about autoandrophilia?
No, well, after kinda, but there was like a huge like gap in between it.
Yeah. So okay, so you transitioned knowing that autoandrophilia was partly behind it?
Yeah, because like my main reason for transitioning is because of discrimination I experienced while living as a masculine woman. I've always been autoandrophilic, like I just didn't really know that's what I was doing. Um, it wasn't enough to make me like want to be a man. I didn't see myself as wanting to be a man because I and in a way I still don't see myself as a man, um, even though I'm masculine.
So when do you like it? You said you've been on testosterone for a while now, about
Yeah.
a year. Um, so you're still very much in the phase of like having the new bodily changes. How do you feel about the various changes that you've seen?
I feel pretty good about it. I like the changes I'm going through. I think the autoandrophilia aspect of it has increased more with the increased sex drive and the body changes. Like, I didn't think I would be enjoying it this much. But yeah, I've been on testosterone for a year now. I haven't had any surgeries. Um, Socially, I haven't really experienced much because I'm not in school and I'm not working, but, like, I get called he, him, and sir by strangers sometimes, and, I don't really care, like, if people can call me he, him, or she, her, I'm not bothered by that. Like, um, but, like, not too many social changes, I've noticed, but more of the physical changes.
Yeah, and those are favorable, like, I imagine you have, like, body hair or facial hair and things like that?
Yeah. Mhm. And, like, I've always like, I have the genetics for it, so I was always, like, hairy, I guess, as a woman too, so I just have more of it. And, like, I've been working out too since it's a lot easier to, um, build muscle mass. I've gotten a lot bigger.
Yeah, that's good. I think autoandrophiles, I if they physically can, I think almost all of them would benefit from, like, going to the gym and getting swole just because it's
Well,
healthy.
yeah, I mean, everyone should, and I guess it can help a little bit more with passing 'cause, like, I've worked out my upper body a lot, and that's kinda evened out my upper body and hip ratio a bit. I haven't experienced too much fat redistribution, like, I still have pretty big thighs, but definitely building myself up from the top has helped with that. Because I mean, there are guys out there with large thighs and large hips, it's just that they have a bigger upper body, so you don't notice it as much.
Yeah, I think you're right that it's for looking masculine, it's really about getting the upper body to be big. It
Mhm.
helps a lot. Um, when did you earlier in your life, like in childhood, when did you first notice signs of what now could be characterized as autoandrophilia?
Well, it's a lot of the androphilia that I have, or autoandrophilia I have is, also, like, related to me being autistic 'cause, um, there's a lot of social norms that go along with, gender, and I wasn't very aware of that, growing up. I didn't really care, but growing up, I was always gender nonconforming. I liked things that typically would have been associated with boys. I loved dinosaurs and sharks and Pokemon, and I really hated anything that was, like, traditionally feminine, like, I didn't like princesses or dresses. It was a lot easier for me to have, male friends growing up. I related to men better. Um, I would wear boys' clothes 'cause sometimes, because there was, at the time, like dinosaurs and stuff on boys' clothes. Now it's different. There's like girls' clothes with dinosaurs on them. But my parents didn't punish me for being gender nonconforming. I know a lot of people have really strict parents who are like, oh, you can't use that. That's for boys or that's for girls. But my parents didn't punish me for it. They didn't tell me either. They didn't say, oh, well, you must be a boy then. They're just like, they didn't raise me with this expectation of you're going to be feminine or you're going to be masculine. They just like gave me the opportunity to explore that. I feel like I'm really privileged for having that because I know a lot of people don't have that experience. But I was basically allowed to be myself in that way.
Yeah, that's good that they didn't force anything on you and sort of just organically let you be whatever it
Mhm.
is you were going to be.
Yeah, because and then I sometimes compare myself to my sister who's a few years younger than me. She was definitely more into the more traditionally feminine stuff as a little kid. Like she loved princesses and stuff, and like I didn't like that stuff. My parents didn't force that on her either. It's just what she liked.
Yeah. Um, right. So she seems compared to you just normal in terms of her
Um,
gender.
well, she's still neurodivergent, so she has ADHD, but it wasn't until recently that she's like, "Oh, yeah, now I identify as non-binary, and I'm going by she, they now." And, and that happened outside of, because she's moved out now. That has nothing to do with me transitioning. She wasn't aware of me transitioning when she started to, um, identify as non-binary and using she, they.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess time will tell whether she also has, um, autoandrophilia or something like that.
I don't think she does,
Okay.
but
Um, y so when did you f I see, like, in your extensive notes you wrote up because you're one of the most prepared people I've had on. This is cool. You
thanks.
mentioned that you experienced autoandrophilia with your first crush. Like, how did that manifest?
So, like, up until that point, I had never experienced having crushes or, um, I guess, sexual desire at all. Like, even as a little kid, I never had crushes on male classmates or anything. Um, but, yeah, when I was going through puberty, I guess it kinda, I don't know what, like, I guess it was kinda late because it was, like, when I was, like, 13 or 14, I had my first crush, and, of course, it was on a teacher, and I was, like, I really liked his personality, that's what made me drawn to him, um, and, I I've noticed that with the guys I've had crushes on, I want to, like, emulate them, like, that's like when I turned 14, that's when I first got my hair cut super short, and, I wanted to wear, like, men's clothing more, because like, yeah, I would wear girls' clothing as a little girl, but, I didn't really care so much because that was, like, my parents, like, were p buying the clothes for me, but since I was getting older, I had that freedom to dress, however I wanted, and my, parents were okay with it. They're like, "Okay, like, you can wear whatever as long as it's not, like, as long as you're wearing clothes," you know? Um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I didn't know it was autoandrophilia at the time when I had that first crush, and, it's kinda been like, that's kinda how it's been, like, just, like, it doesn't really go, like, to the point that I wish I was male or that I wish I had, like, a penis. It's more like, "Oh, I wanna emulate this person's style." Um, I've always liked, um, cosplaying as male characters. I just relate better to male characters in general. Um, I like drawing myself as a male persona and, like, I guess, like, fantasizing about myself as that male persona with his boyfriend. Um, because I don't really have a lot going for me for the, romance aspect of my life because 'cause I'm also partially asexual, so it is hard when to develop these crushes when they do happen. So I kind of just, like, fantasize about being a male character.
Yeah. It's when you first started, um, fantasize about being male characters or dressing in male clothes, have you did you experience gender euphoria?
Yeah, I guess it could be described as that, but, um it was more like I didn't really see the connection with gender because, again, I didn't really want to be a man or male. I was just like, "Wow, I feel really good in this. Like, I look good in this. I like the way I look. I think I look attractive, but that's because it was male clothing. So, yeah, of course I would think that. But I never thought, like, oh, I must be a man now because I like these things. Um,
Right. Yeah, like, you
yeah,
didn't do it you didn't your thought process wasn't like, "I wanna be a man, so I'm gonna put on the clothes." It was more that you put
no,
on the clothes and then you liked it because it was masculine.
yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I'm partially asexual, so it's not super sexually motivated for me. Like, I don't really see myself playing like a male role or purposely trying to act masculine um, when I'm wearing guys' clothes. I mean, it's like my everyday life now. I've had short hair for over 10 years, worn pretty much only male clothing for 10 years. It's I don't even consider it cross-dressing because it's like this is like the clothes I normally wear.
Yeah. That that makes sense. I mean, personally, like, even though I wear women's clothes, I just think of them as my clothes at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I'm tr You made such an excellent list of things. I'm like, "Dang, what should I ask about?" Um, what sort of precipitated the decision to start medically transitioning?
Uh, well, that's kind of that's a really big question 'cause, definitely um, not autoandrophilia. Like, I mean, it's definitely it helps, but, basically because of discrimination I experienced. Because as I went through puberty and I started, growing up and wearing men's clothing and having short hair, people started to ask me more about my sexuality and my gender, like, "What are you?" And I didn't really understand that socially because, again, I'm autistic. Um, so I wasn't really quite aware of, like, the what it meant to be a woman with short hair, if that makes sense. Because to me, it's like, well, I like having short hair. I'm still a girl and I'm still attracted to guys, but a lot of people really doubted me. And, I did experience, like, some homophobia and sexism from classmates. Um, I went on a study abroad program to Japan with other American students, and I was friends with a group of guys, and I was having a great time over there. And, I was super happy, especially being autistic, it's so hard for me to make friends. I was like, "Oh, yes, I finally have my own friend group, I feel included, these people like me." And I later found out, that the only reason they were willing to be my friend is because they somehow found out I wasn't lesbian, and that they originally hated me when they first met me because they thought I was, lesbian, and they felt like, "Oh, that's enough to, like, not wanna hang out with me, I guess." But, um, even though they were like, "Okay, so we misjudged you, but we still don't like the way you look." They uh, told me to my face, they're like, "Oh, well, you're basically a man and that you're unattractive." And they basically said, if we were to like a woman that looked like you, we might as well be gay. Which like really hurt me at the time. And I'm like still dealing with this. And I felt like really bad about that.
It
Um,
was men that were saying this to you?
yes, and Americans too. Like these are not Japanese
Uh,
people.
oh, weird.
Yeah, and then, but they saw me as one of the guys, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
man. So
but they're
they saw
like,
you as one of the
"Oh"
guys, but then were, like, kind of like mean girls towards you.
yeah, but they're kinda like yeah, and, oh, man, it's like it's so frustrating because it's like, I feel like with straight guys, maybe I don't know what it was like in the past, but I feel like straight men today really feel the need to defend their heterosexuality. Like, they won't even eat a banana. Like, some of them. Like, they're really like, "I gotta defend this. Like, I'm not gay." Like, you know? So I ended up telling a different friend on the trip. She was lesbian. She was also American. I told her what had happened to me with these guys, and I was really upset about it. And she basically told me, she's like, "Well, that's what you deserve for being a straight person." And she wasn't sympathetic at all. And she was like, "Oh, that's what you get." And she felt like I had tricked her into thinking I was lesbian, even though I had never said anything about liking women. She just like based that all entirely off of like my physical appearance. And I was crushed by that. I later found out she was like one of the a man-hating feminists too. So yeah, I was like really frustrated about that. And then um, I went back to the United States, and I had another friend I told. This friend, she's bisexual, and I told her about what happened on the study abroad program. And she basically um, also blamed me for what happened. And she's like, "Well, that's what you get for not looking and acting straight." And so, and like, she's like, "Well, you were asking for it." And that was really hard. I ended up um, failing that whole study abroad program and had to take a break from college. It didn't matter too much because that's when COVID happened. And
Right,
I
like, you would
was
have gotten sent home anyways?
no, actually, it's funny because the last week we were there, I was watching TV and it's like, "Oh, a new virus has just been discovered in China." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's funny because I'm not going to be here in Asia anymore." Little did I know. But yeah, I was already back in the US when COVID happened.
Okay,
Um,
and that's when you started to question your identity?
yeah, basically, like I felt like more confused because I'm like, well, why am I doing this? Like, why am I acting this way if I think I'm a girl? And like why am I being masculine? I know it's a lot of it has to do with my autism and stuff, but my autism often gets misinterpreted as like, "Oh, you're trying to express your queerness or your masculinity." And I really don't like that because I feel like it erases my disability. But I started watching videos on trans people and HRT to do like to get a better understanding of it. I felt more confused because like there were a lot of new definitions to being trans, and it's like, "Oh, you can just be trans." And I'm like, "Well, that doesn't really help me decide if I want to start HRT or not." Um, and like I was just like, yeah, I was just really confused by that because like my only sense of gender up until that point was like being a woman, but it came from the fact I was born female. But now the definition of an adult human female, like that's not a woman anymore. That's politically incorrect now. So I feel like I don't have a sense of gender identity if that's the new definition. It's like, how can I still be a woman if that's not the definition of what a woman is anymore? And it's just like, "Oh, you feel it." And it's like, well, I don't know what it's like to feel like a woman. Like, I know what it's like to have a period and a vagina, but those apparently don't make you a woman. So how am I supposed to feel that? Um, but I decided at the time I'm gonna keep living as a woman. I'm not gonna go on hormones. And the I ended up going back to Japan in 2023 because I was going to go to an American university over there. I really liked Japan and I wanted to be back there, but I experienced a lot of PTSD um, and suicidal thoughts while I was there because a lot of it reminded me of what had happened previously while I was there. And I also had encountered more American students that would make comments about my gender and sexuality, which I really don't like. Um, it wasn't as extreme as what had happened before, but still, it just like really triggered me and brought up those negative emotions. Because I never talk about my own gender, sexuality in conversation, so it feels weird when people do talk about me that way because it's like, well, I didn't say anything. Um, but I only ended up living there for 6 months and I came back and I realized like, yeah, I think I need to transition. Like I can't live as like a masculine woman anymore because people aren't even seeing me as a woman. They're like always doubting me, always questioning me. Um, like asking me why I do things. And I can't just say, "Oh yeah, I like having short hair." Like that's not a good enough answer for people, unfortunately.
You've tried that
And
and
I know if
they just
I
don't, like, accept that as an answer?
yeah, no, it's like, no, there's gotta be a deeper meaning apparently. It's like,
That's
what,
annoying.
people can't just like things?
Um, yeah, it sounds like it's like, you might not have had as much, like, gender identity issues if the old definitions of man and woman that were based on sex were still, like, the norm.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Um, like, uh yeah, so when I came back to the United States, I decided like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go on hormones. And 'cause before I was thinking like, well, if I what if I tried to go the opposite way and I tried to conform to what society sees as a woman or as hyper feminine, I guess. Because I feel like if I had done that, I would have been masking my autism and living really inauthentically. And I probably would experience actual gender dysphoria if I was forcing myself to wear makeup and dresses and not live as how I want to live. Um, because like my problem isn't being female. Like I'm fine with having a female body. Like I don't have a problem with it. My problem is more like how I'm treated as a masculine female. Um, and I kind of figured like, well, I'm not being seen as a woman anyway, so like, what does it matter if I transition um, to live as a guy? Because I probably would be more socially accepted if I was a man, because my autistic traits would align better with being male. Um, and then the other thing is, like, because I really don't like when people say like, "Oh, you're not a real woman." Like that really gets me. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like seriously?" But like I know that if I like transition to be a guy that people could tell me, "Oh, you're not a real man. Like you don't have a penis." Like that's a lot easier of a pill to swallow than someone telling me you're not a real woman. And like, "Oh, just cuz you have a vagina, yeah, you're not a real woman because of that." Like that like it would be a lot easier to live as a trans guy. Um I feel like.
Yeah. Has other people's perceptions, like, always had this sort of, like, strong impact on you?
Um Not really. Um I think it's just 'cause, like, it's funny because my parents and my extended family, they see me as really feminine. It's just, like, when I go out into society, that that's when people start to question me, like, especially people my age, and what I don't like about it is the doubt, like, people, they're like, "Oh, you're straight, prove it." Like, I can't really prove it other than saying, "Yeah, I'm sexually attracted to men." Um, but it really gets to me. Um, uh, yeah, it really, like, bothers me, I guess, because it's like I still see this, like, I personally don't think about much about my own sexuality and gender, um, but a lot of other people seem to that's their focus, and so I feel, like, really confused. It's like, why does my own sexuality and gender matter so much to other strangers? And I get at this age, people are looking to hook up and have sex, so that is important to know what a person is. But then again, I'm also asexual, so that doesn't matter too much to me because it's like, well, what does it matter? Just because another guy's straight doesn't mean I'm gonna hook up with him. Um, but yeah, it's like really, I feel like it's kind of become more of the focus of my life just because so many people my age have put a spotlight on it. And I don't really feel like my own sexuality and gender are a big part of my identity. It's doesn't really say a lot about who I am as an actual person. I value like a person's personality and their characteristic traits way more than what parts they're born with or how they see themselves, I guess. Um,
Yeah, that that makes sense. Just because gender and sexuality, it's a very small part of what a person actually is.
yeah.
Um, you mentioned that since being on testosterone, that your autoandrophilia has increased. Like, how does that tend to manifest?
Um, like I guess I'm feeling more comfortable with my body. I kind of feel maybe a little more aligned with my body. Um, because I'm like, oh, I'm starting to look kind of like one of my personas that I've created. So that makes me feel good about myself. And I know when I went through female puberty um, and as I became an adult, I had this sense of like, I don't feel like I'm an adult. Like, I don't feel like I ever grew up. But now that I'm going through, I guess, male puberty now, um, I feel like, oh, I'm starting to feel more like an adult now. Like, I feel like I'm actually growing up this time. And then also, like, it's made me want to like, I mean, I've always wanted a boyfriend, but now it's like made those feelings stronger and I feel a little more comfortable about dating. I've joined a few dating apps. I haven't met with anyone yet, but um I'm definitely like interested and I feel like, oh, now I can start dating now cuz the parts I see attractive about myself are going to be attractive to other guys now cuz one social change that I have noticed is that um, gay and bisexual men are showing more interest in me because straight men previously didn't show interest in me at all. But it also brings up a lot of mixed feelings because it's a reminder that the same things that gay and bisexual men like about me now are the same traits that straight men found undesirable in me, like particularly like my body hair. I have always felt comfortable with my body hair. I don't shave it. Um, but I know a lot of straight guys don't find that attractive. And even like women too will be, I've had people be passive aggressive towards me about my body hair. But it just feels weird to be on the opposite end where now that people are starting to view me as a guy or some, like, I guess, pseudo guy, like not quite a man, but they're like, "Oh, that's really attractive that you have a lot of body hair." So it does feel a little weird. And then also with me working out and building muscle, like a lot of guys are like, "Wow, that's really hot. Like that's great that you're getting big." Um, so it definitely feels weird. I mean, I like the attention, but it's uh, definitely feels different.
What what do your workouts look like? Like, what sort of
Like,
exercises do you do?
oh, like I just like lift weights. Like one day I work on like my chest and my back, and then I work on my legs on one day, and then I also work on my arms a lot. I also do a lot of like cardio because I still have like body fat that I'm trying to get rid of. And like the good thing is like the more muscle you have, the more calories you can burn. So it
Yeah.
gets easier to lose the fat. But I would like to have less fat in my thighs. I don't really have a problem with having big thighs. It's just that I can't really wear men's pants because they don't fit me well. Um, because I'm only 5'6" too, so I'm kind of short for a guy now. But like uh I would like to lose some of my body fat, but I don't want to be like a I don't want to look like a stick figure. I don't want stick legs. I still want muscular legs and stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, I mean, based on my workout experience, like, um, I think the weightlifting is really what matters much more than the cardio, so it sounds like you're doing a bunch of good weightlifting, and
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
definitely gonna work.
yeah. But
Uh,
it definitely feels weird to get a bunch of male attention when I previously was getting like zero. Like it's definitely odd, I guess. Um, I know there are guys that do have a fetish for masculine women, but I was never really um, into that. Like, because the fetish for me isn't, oh, I'm a masculine woman. It's no, I'm just masculine. That's the fetish, if you want to call it that. Um,
right, like, what you find attractive is just being masculine.
yeah, it's not the woman that's being masculine is the attract. No, that's not the attractive part. But I guess my other problem with being like a masculine woman and dating, like one of the things that held me back is there's this misconception that masculine women must be dominant in the bedroom and that they must want to peg men or humiliate them or in some way. Um, and I've never had any um, desire to do that. Um, so it feels like I part of the reason I didn't feel comfortable dating is because I don't feel like I could conform to a man's expectations, especially if they had a fetish for masculine women. Like, I don't feel like I would be able to satisfy them and give them what they want. But I would say in general, I don't see myself as submissive or dominant. I don't really I don't see myself having a specific role during sex. I'm just like, I kind of see, um, like, I guess my idealized version of sex would be like two people as equals, not, um, but uh, then again, that's probably me being autistic and not really understanding it. But I feel a lot more comfortable about the idea of dating and being with another guy now that I'm transitioning because it's like, oh, he's going to see my masculinity as attractive, which is what I always saw as attractive in myself. So that feels good.
Yeah. Do you um, Do you think you would ever have you ever had attraction to women, or is it only men?
No, it's only been to, men. I've tried to, like, make myself like women because I think, like, oh, because people are like, "Well, how do you know you're not a lesbian if you've never tried?" That whole thing, and, like, I've met a lot of women where I'm like, "Oh, I like their personalities a lot, I'm just not sexually attracted to them." And then I also feel like if I did try dating a woman, that would be very dishonest on my part, and it would probably hurt the other person. Um, I wouldn't wanna put a girl through that where she's actually romantically interested in me because I think women have shown, sexual attraction towards me. Um, I wouldn't wanna break someone's heart and just, like, use them for experimenting with my own sexuality. I feel like that would be very dishonest and, would hurt them, and I'm not that type of person.
Yeah, that's thoughtful of you. Um, so in terms of like men, which ones would you hypothetically want to date? Like what type?
Probably guys with more, masculine traits, like, I guess, I don't have a problem with feminine guys. It kinda depends, 'cause, some feminine guys to me look underage, so I'm really turned off by anyone who looks like a child or like a teenage boy. I'm like, "No, I'm not into that." So, but I don't mind guys with feminine traits. Um, I find that, like, whoever I'm currently crushing on, if I find a guy that looks similar to them or has similar personality traits, it's a little easier for me to form crushes on them. But I feel like I'm pretty much open to dating any guy, um, as long as we're like as long as I'm attracted to their personality, 'cause, it seems to be like I'm attracted to the personality first, and then I get attracted to their body afterwards. Um, yeah, I don't really have, like, a super strong preference for what type of guy I'm, interested. I've never really had, like, a type, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds like you don't have a physical type so much as um, you're looking for a personality compatibility.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there are exceptions, like, I wouldn't want the person to be, super morbidly obese or something, or, like, something like that, but
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, you're gonna probably want people that are in their 20s or 30s
yeah,
and
around my age.
masculine.
Mhm.
Um, are you've been on testosterone for a year now. Do you feel good about the trajectory of it? Like, do you think you're gonna wanna continue being on it?
Yeah, so far, I feel pretty good about it. I'm looking forward to, like, more changes, um, like, I am working on building my muscles, so getting bigger, I guess. Not super big. I don't wanna be like I don't see myself becoming a bodybuilder, and then also growing more facial hair, because I would like a beard. Um, and then, um, I feel pretty positive about it. I mean, people like, strangers already are starting to read me as male. Um, so I feel good about that. And then, um, I'm hopeful that if I get to a point where I'm, like, good about how I look, um, and I'm passing as a guy and, like, people don't question it, like, I'm looking forward to more, like, social changes, like, maybe people won't read me as, like, mean, or they won't, um, I guess, like, they won't they'll see my autistic traits as more as like typical male traits.
Yeah.
So they won't feel as like weird by me, I guess. Um, like I'm looking forward to like more like of the social changes. Because I guess I kind of consider myself like a trans maxer in a way where I'm trying to reap the benefits of transitioning. I just feel like my personality and my autism would make it easier for me to live as a guy than it would be living as a girl.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Um, it I do think the sort of body language and way of speaking and thinking and such of among autists does seem to be more of like a male typical way of being.
Yeah, I don't I don't entirely understand it because even when I'm not using my speaking voice, when I'm typing, I get read mail a lot. Because I remember when I was in Japan the last time, I was in a group chat, and the group chat was just like asking like basic things like, "Oh, where do you find this at 7-Eleven or whatever?" And I never really participated in the group chat, never really said much. And one day I posted like a little GIF of a monkey spinning around, and I said, "I'm gonna go ape." And someone later told me like, "Oh, I thought you were a guy the whole time I was talking to you," or like, and this other girl was like, "Yeah, you talk like a man." And it's like all I did was send a GIF of a monkey spinning. Like I didn't say anything really.
Yeah, I think with online with text, people you get very little information from the text, and they mostly are just reading into it and just synthesizing whatever it is you are.
Yeah.
Do you feel that being more masculine has allowed you to be more authentic?
Um when you say masculine, do you mean like actually
Oh,
going off of
masculinized, I guess, like
Oh,
the hormones and
um
transition.
no, I don't think so because I've always been living as authentically as possible. I think what it's doing is changing the lens which people see me through. So they're starting to see me more as how I see myself in a positive way, if that makes sense. Like earlier with the example I gave of men showing romantic interest in me now that they're perceiving me as a guy. Um, like that would be an example of like seeing me more as how I would see myself as because I feel like, oh, I do have these good traits and I want people to see that in me. And I felt like as previously people got too um hyper focused on what are you? Like are you a lesbian or what are you? Or they got too focused on my masculine traits and they couldn't see like the whole big picture of who I was as a person. So I feel like now that I'm transitioning, it's allowing people to see this person that's always been here, but it's just like changing their perspective on how they see me,
Yeah,
gender wise.
it makes it more okay for you to be naturally how you are, like, people accept you more as you are.
Yeah, because I kind of see it a little bit with my dad because he's most likely autistic, but he's male. So me and him have a lot of the same characteristics, but he's read differently because he's a man.
Yeah. Do you think anyone else in your family is autoandrophilic or autogynephilic?
Absolutely not, actually. I don't think so.
Okay, I just ask because often it does seem to run in families, so I've decided to
Oh,
start
okay.
asking that of people.
Yeah. Well, both my parents are boomers. They're straight. Uh, they definitely like I kinda wonder if, like, they're 'cause they've been married for, like, maybe 30 years now, over 30 years, I don't know. But I kinda think, like, not everyone has parents that are in a happy marriage like that, and so, I'm influenced by that, and so I think a lot of my desires for having a healthy relationship come with that, um, and, uh, "Oh, this is what you wanna look for in a partner," like, you want someone who cares about you and loves you and stuff. I've been, like, taught that from a really young age, by my parents. So I think, that kind of that definitely rubs off on me. Um, but I wouldn't say I don't think anyone in my family is autoandrophilic or autogynephilic. Like, my sister is, bisexual, and non-binary, um, but they've always been, typically, feminine, like, definitely more feminine than me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's I mean, it'd probably be for the best if your sister wasn't, just because, like, some suffering can come along with having autoandrophilia.
Yeah. I think part of it is because they're not autistic too, so they understand kinda more. They've had experience with dating, and with being with men. They don't really have a issue with that.
Um, w how like, do you spend, I know you spend, like, some time on Discord. Do you How have your interactions with autoandrophiles online been? Like, has it helped to be able to talk to them?
A little bit, but I also feel, like, confused too, because 'cause I'm like, maybe because I definitely feel like I'm on the low end of the autoandrophilia spectrum. I don't think it's as intense for me, um, because I recently learned about forced masculinization and forced feminization,
Yeah.
um, and I feel like I'm not forcing, anything because 'cause I'm like, "I've always been this way, I'm not trying to, uh, force myself to do anything," uh and sometimes I worry about the other people because I feel like if you're forcing yourself to do something that's not genuine, you're gonna end up hurting yourself in the long run. It's all gonna be like a facade and people are gonna see through that. Like, that's not gonna help.
I I think the word "force" here, like, it started with forced feminization, which was usually consumed by autogynephilic males that kind of it conflicted with their self-identity as men to be
Mhm,
into feminization, so forced feminization sort of started there, and then the forced mask stuff, like the memes, it's based on sort of stuff that the AGPs liked, but I I guess I don't see that as the force mask stuff as people, like, trying to force themselves to be masculine, although I guess some of them honestly feel like inspirational posters, some of the force mask ones. Um, they're they're pretty endearing, I think they're funny. Um,
I don't know. At least with the people that I've talked to, I'm like, why they seem to be, like, forcing themselves to do some things. Like, um,
like, they're not naturally masculine, but they still have a great desire to be, and they're just trying to make it happen.
yeah, or a lot of them still latch on to, like, femininity, I've noticed, and a lot of them really I'm like, "It's fine if they enjoy that stuff, if they like wearing makeup and wearing women's clothes, like, I don't care," but it's like, I don't feel like they should have to give that up, like, if that's what you like and stuff, and, yeah, I don't feel like a person should have to give that up. And then also, I notice a lot of the guys they wanna aspire to be like are, like the androgynous, um, shonen anime character type guys, which I have a hard time relating to because I'm like, if you wanna look like an anime character, just cosplay, it's that easy. But, I feel a bit of an outsider kinda wanting to look like this more masculine looking, um, guy.
Yeah, I could see feeling like an outsider even among some of the autoandrophiles because yeah, they do. Some of them do like mixing masculinity and femininity more, and they do want to be sort of yeah the the Bishonen characters.
Yeah, because I feel a bit weird because 'cause I'm like, my autoandrophilia desire is like, I wanna look like Ulysses S Grant. I don't wanna look like an anime character, which is like the furthest thing from like, what the other people wanna look like.
So you'd
And
want to like have a big beard and maybe like even smoke a tobacco pipe,
well, not the smoking part, but yeah,
right? Because yeah, that's what took Ulysses S. Grant down.
yeah. But like I do like the masculinity mixed with femininity. I just feel like it's for me, it's done in a different way because my masculine side has always been on the outside and my femininity is more internal. Where it's like you have to get to know me and stuff. And I know this might sound weird because he doesn't look it, but uh, people actually described Grant as having a feminine personality. Um, he definitely doesn't look the part, but he, for his time period, he wasn't considered traditionally masculine. Um, and he has, I relate to him a lot because I feel like we have similar personalities, and his femininity is more like he's reserved, he's gentle, kind, sensitive, and that's kind of how I express mine. So that's how I like. That's kind of part of the reason why I feel like I like him so much and I relate to him.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the cooler sort of like autoandrophilic role models. You know, like to be like a war general and U.S. president as a goal instead
Yeah.
of an anime character.
Yeah, and plus, like, I mean, I've always had an interest in history and learning about the US presidents, and let me tell you, a lot of the US presidents are not aspirational people. You do not wanna be like them.
Yeah, but Grant is definitely a role
Yeah, he's
model.
actually one of the decent ones. He's actually pretty kind, he has a soul.
Yeah, have you changed your name in real life yet? Or are you planning to?
Like, legally, probably not, because I know it just, like, costs money, and then also I wanna be, like, really certain about it too. Um, Also, I haven't picked out a middle name either, but I do go by Ulysses in person.
Okay. Yeah, it just so you know, it doesn't actually cost that much. It's
Oh, okay.
I think it's less than a couple $100. Um, it's yeah, it's not really expensive. But you know, I'm not trying to like force you to transition in that way, but I just want to let you know it's like it's very affordable.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I just wanna be really certain, like, maybe in a couple of years, I don't wanna make the mistake where some detransitioner people they get their name changed super fast and then they're like end up regretting it, and I want to be like more certain um and comfortable. It just like depends on how things go.
yeah. No, that's I think that's smart to like make sure you're sure of it first because you're just a year into taking testosterone. And
Mhm.
so I think there's still like a lot of potential for change in how you feel, and it makes sense to be really certain of it first before committing to something like that.
Yeah, and even before, deciding to transition, since I didn't find, a lot of the transition videos by trans people helpful, like, in deciding, if you should transition or not, I did a lot of research and talked to, detransition people to kinda see, like, um, how it why it didn't work out for them and kinda think like, "Okay, well, I don't experience this, so" or like, it might be better for me to transition, um, like, I might have a better chance, I don't know.
Um, let's see. Do you are you currently going to school or have a job or anything like that?
No, 'cause, I still have a lot of PTSD and depression that I'm working through. I just don't feel like, university is a positive environment for me socially. I love learning, I love, taking classes. I would love to continue learning Japanese and eventually go back to Japan. Um, like, I'm just, like, really scared, um, around people that are, like, my age. I'm trying to put myself back out there slowly, like, with meeting people through dating apps and then, continuing to have, like, positive relationships that I already have. Um, I'm kinda waiting more on, like, how I end up looking, because I also don't wanna show up looking visibly trans where people are gonna be could be potentially bothering me and asking me questions. Because it's frustrating. Because it's like that even still with a trans identity, that's like a very tiny fraction of who I am as a person, and it's like I want people to see me for who I actually am, not all these labels that I have on myself.
Yeah, it's that makes sense. You wanna assimilate and
Yeah.
just be yeah,
I'm
not have people questioning your sexuality and gender
yeah,
and all
I'm
that.
also, like, not it's kinda, interesting too, because 'cause I'm not, like, ashamed of it either. Like, I'm not ashamed that I'm trans, I'm not trying to be stealth or anything. It's just, like, not a big factor of who I am as a person. It's like, I just don't think it's that important in my everyday life that people should know that. Um, like, I think where it is important is with, like, yeah, dating, and then obviously if the discussion is about that, then yeah, I'll share. But generally, like, if I was in a class, I'm not really gonna share that information because I just don't feel like it's relevant. And I know some people interpret a interpret that as like, "Oh, well, you don't have pride in yourself and you're ashamed." It's like, "No, I just it's not relevant."
Yeah, like, you don't wanna be known for your gender situation, you just wanna be known for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that sort of, way of feeling is I find it more sympathetic because it reminds me sort of like the more assimilationist transsexuals where they're not trying to be a special gender person, they're just like, "I wanna just be a normal person."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what, for, like, the other autoandrophiles that might be listening to this, what would you want to say to them?
Well, I hope they're aware that they have autoandrophilia. Um, and that, like, it's not a bad thing if you do, and, like, you don't have to transition if you do have it, like, um, and that if you do decide to transition, that you should definitely be aware of the effects of it, and that you should be genuine and authentic in it. Um, and that also, if you are transitioning, that shouldn't be like that's not going to be the thing that fixes everything. It's not going to give you lifelong happiness. You should work on other things that make you happy too. Because I know my transitioning, like I'm still struggle with depression and PTSD. I know the transitioning is not going to fix everything. It's just a piece of it. Um, and I would hope that other trans people and even non-trans people are more open-minded about uh, the reasons why someone might transition. It's not just, oh, I'm born in the wrong body. People transition for different reasons, and I think that's okay. Um, as long as they're want those changes from the hormones, I think that's fine. And, like, personally, I feel like the definitions of what it means to be a man or a woman have narrowed, and I think that, society as a whole has become just, like, less accepting of gender nonconforming, cisgender, straight people. They want them to either be they want them to be LGBT. They don't want them to be just, like, non-heteronormative straight people, like, they don't like that. And I think that, like, some of the current gender ideology is hurting. I think it hurts everyone, even people who aren't transitioning. It's just like creating more labels and putting more people into boxes. It's not helpful. Um, but like I think that I would hope that people would be open minded about autoheterosexuality as a whole and understand like um it's that's a spectrum too. Like it's not completely all sexually motivated. Um, but I guess that would be my message.
Yeah, I mean, that's all very reasonable stuff. And I think this is a good place to wrap up. Uh,
Oh, I wanted to add
yeah,
one more thing because
yeah, go ahead.
I talked to one trans person online, and they told me that the goal of transitioning should be to be in a better place, um, than you were prior to transitioning, and I think that's a really great goal, and I feel like that's my goal, to be in a better place, not to be, oh, the perfect man or whatever. Um, but yeah, I think that should be everyone's goal with if they do decide to transition, that they should be doing it so that they can live a better life if they think that's the right choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's very reasonable. Um, is there anything else you wanna add before we close up?
Um, no, just that like for me in my case, I feel like the auto heterosexuality and uh is all wrapped up with being autistic and asexual. It's all very interconnected for me. Um, so in my experience, so people uh, might also find that their auto heterosexuality is also tied to other things. It doesn't really like, for me, it's not just like a standalone thing,
Right,
in
like,
my
it's tied in
experience.
with how you experience being neurodivergent and
Yeah,
all
exactly.
that. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Um, yeah, I guess I'll close up here. Yeah, thanks for coming on
Yeah,
the
no
show
problem.
and sharing your experience. You were super well prepared, which was great. And yeah, thanks for adding your voice to the growing number of voices of people talking about this.
Yeah, I'm happy I could contribute. I hope people find this, my story, helpful, and that that it expanded their worldview somehow.